While the world watches California struggle with homelessness and wildfire evacuations, something extraordinary is happening beneath the headlines. The world's fifth-largest economy is quietly executing the most aggressive infrastructure transformation in American history. We're talking about projects so massive, so controversial, and so expensive that most states wouldn't dare attempt even one of them. California is building five simultaneously. A high-speed rail system that America said was impossible. A water tunnel so controversial it might trigger the state's next civil war. A reservoir larger than anything built in half a century. An airport overhaul ending decades of lax chaos. And a luxury development that's rewriting the rules of urban construction. Together, these projects represent over $150 billion in bets that California can still build at the scale that built the Golden Gate Bridge and the Los Angeles Aqueduct. But here's the question nobody's asking. In a state famous for abandoning mega projects halfway through, for budget explosions that kill ambition, and for environmental lawsuits that strangle infrastructure, can any of these actually finish? Or are we watching California spend a fortune on monuments to dysfunction that will never open? If you're fascinated by mega projects and want to see more deep dives into the world's most ambitious infrastructure, hit that subscribe button so we can reach 10,000 subscribers. And drop a comment telling us which California project you think will actually finish on time. Let's start with the one project that symbolizes everything about California infrastructure. Endless ambition, spectacular cost overruns, and a refusal to die no matter how many times it's declared dead. America's first true high-speed rail system is actually being built right now in California's Central Valley, and the scale is staggering. As of late 2025, 52 structures are complete, another 32 are under construction, and 69 miles of elevated guideway are finished. At a massive rail facility in Kern County, workers have completed track installation across 150 acres of land that will serve as the logistical hub for the entire system. This isn't a fantasy anymore. It's concrete and steel, rising across 119 miles between Merced and Bakersfield. The California High-Speed Rail Authority just released one of the nation's largest rail infrastructure contracts. A $3.5 billion request for proposals to deliver the first true high-speed track and systems ever built in the United States. When operational, trains will hit 220 miles per hour, connecting San Francisco to Los Angeles in under 3 hours. For context, that same trip currently takes 6 hours by car through some of America's most congested highways, or an hour by plane when you factor in security, boarding, and airport transfers. But here's where the dream collides with California reality. The original budget was $33 billion. Current estimates range between $89 billion and $128 billion for the complete system. The first segment was supposed to open in 2029. Now, the authority is targeting between 2030 and 2033, though California's own Inspector General says 2033 is unlikely. The full system connecting Northern and Southern California. The latest plan shows 2039, contingent on securing stable long-term funding that remains completely uncertain. More than 14,500 jobs have been created since construction began, with over 3,000 going to Central Valley residents in communities that desperately need economic opportunity. But those same communities are watching costs explode while timelines slip further into the future. Every delay means more inflation, more interest on bonds, more skepticism from legislators who could pull funding tomorrow. So why hasn't California killed this project? Because it's past the point of no return. Too much money spent, too much infrastructure built, too many political careers staked on completion. High-speed rail has become too expensive to abandon and too close to finish to kill, grinding forward through sheer bureaucratic momentum until someone someday cuts a ribbon on America's first bullet train. Now let's talk about California's water crisis. Because the state is betting $40 billion that it can solve water scarcity with the most aggressive and controversial infrastructure in the nation. The Delta Conveyance Project is a $20 billion plan to build a 45-mile tunnel beneath the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. This isn't some modest pipe. We're talking about a 36-foot wide tunnel carrying fresh water from the Sacramento River southward to Bethany Reservoir, securing water for 27 million people and 750,000 acres of farmland. If this tunnel had been operational in 2024, it would have captured 941,000 acre-feet of water, enough to supply nearly 10 million people for an entire year. The project will feature two massive intake facilities drawing river water through protective fish screens, moving it through sedimentation basins, then dropping it into the tunnel system capable of diverting 6,000 cubic feet per second. California's Department of Water Resources says this is essential infrastructure to protect the state's largest source of clean, affordable water from earthquakes and climate-driven weather extremes. But here's what they don't advertise in the press releases. Construction means years of noise, air pollution, dust, and heavy truck traffic for Delta communities who never asked for this. Environmental groups across California are furious, arguing the tunnel will devastate the West Coast's largest estuary and destroy critical fish habitats. Northern California residents see this as Southern California stealing their water again, just like the Los Angeles Aqueduct drained Owens Valley a century ago. The timeline. Permitting should complete by the end of 2026, construction begins in 2029, and the system becomes operational by 2044 or 2045. That's 20 years of construction, 2 decades of litigation, and billions in cost overruns that nobody's honestly estimating yet. Southern California's water agencies are willing to pay because they have no choice. Without new water infrastructure, the region faces severe shortages within 15 years. But whether this tunnel actually gets built depends on surviving decades of lawsuits from virtually every environmental organization in the state. California isn't just building one massive water project. 20 miles northwest of Sacramento, construction is preparing to begin on site's reservoir, a $20 billion off-stream storage facility that will hold 1.5 million acre-feet of water. That's enough to supply over 4.5 million homes for an entire year, making it the largest new water storage project in California in decades. Here's what makes sites genuinely revolutionary. Traditional dams block rivers, destroying ecosystems and flooding valleys. Sites is different. It's an off-stream reservoir that only captures excess water during extreme storms, leaving flows for fish and wildlife during normal conditions. Think of it like the San Luis Reservoir you see driving south on Interstate 5, or Diamond Valley Lake in Southern California. These systems pump water during high-flow periods, store it, then release it during droughts. In January 2025, the Department of the Interior awarded sites $129 million in federal funding, bringing total federal commitment to $646 million. In August, Governor Newsom announced an additional $219 million from the California Water Commission to accelerate the timeline. But that extra funding isn't optimism, it's damage control. Delays have caused costs to explode due to inflation and anticipated construction increases. The site's project authority launched competitive procurement for a construction manager to build the reservoir, with construction set to begin in 2026 and operations starting in 2032. If successful, sites proves California can build massive infrastructure in the 21st century, that off-stream storage can balance water supply with environmental protection, and that decades of planning can actually culminate in the water security California desperately needs as climate change transforms the state's hydrology. If it fails, it's another billion-dollar monument to California's inability to execute anything on schedule or budget. Let's shift from water wars to urban transformation, starting with the infrastructure project that every Los Angeles traveler has been begging for since the 1990s. Los Angeles International Airport has been a nightmare for generations. Passengers circling terminals endlessly searching for pickups, rideshare chaos blocking traffic, rental car shuttles vanishing into some mysterious off-site dimension. LAX handles over 80 million passengers annually, making it one of the world's busiest airports, but its ground transportation has been stuck in 1960s design philosophy. That's finally changing. The LAX Automated People Mover is a $2.3 billion elevated train system that will revolutionize how people access the airport. The system features 6 stations connecting all 9 terminals to a new consolidated rental car facility, a regional light rail station, and an intermodal transportation facility for buses and shuttles. Passengers will board clean, modern trains running every 2 minutes during peak hours, eliminating the surface-level traffic chaos that has defined LAX for decades. Construction is well underway across the airport property. The elevated guideway is taking shape. Stations are rising at each terminal, and the massive consolidated rental car facility is being completed off-site to remove thousands of daily shuttle trips from airport roads. The trains themselves will be fully automated, climate-controlled, and accessible, carrying passengers above the traffic rather than through it. The People Mover is scheduled to begin operations in 2026, finally delivering the seamless airport experience that cities like Singapore, Hong Kong, and Dubai have had for years. But here's the California catch. The project has already faced delays and cost increases. The original timeline targeted earlier completion, but coordination with ongoing terminal modernizations and the complexity of building an elevated train system, while keeping the nation's second busiest airport fully operational, has pushed schedules back. When the People Mover finally opens, it won't just be a train. It will be proof that Los Angeles can modernize infrastructure that millions of people use daily, that airports can integrate 21st century transit, and that sometimes the most impactful projects aren't the flashiest. They're the ones that fix the daily frustrations people have endured for 30 years. Finally, let's talk about luxury infrastructure in a city that practically invented the concept. Construction has officially begun on One Beverly Hills, a nearly $5 billion development transforming 17.5 acres into what developers call an urban resort. 2 residential towers, one rising 31 stories and another 28 stories, will become the tallest buildings in Beverly Hills, creating a new skyline presence on the city's western edge. The project includes 255 ultra-luxury condominiums, 79 hotel suites, and 30,000 square feet of commercial space, with completion targeted for early 2028. But what separates One Beverly Hills from typical luxury developments is its botanical ambition. Landscape architects are cultivating gardens featuring over 200 species of California native plants and trees, including palms, oaks, sycamores, succulents, and olives, creating a vertical landscape that integrates nature into urban density. The development employs a central geothermal system, using the Earth's temperature to naturally heat and cool water, reducing cooling towers and saving millions of gallons annually. Extensive work has progressed since groundbreaking in 2024, including demolition, drilling geothermal wells, utility installation, and site preparation. Vertical construction is now underway, with phased delivery beginning in 2027 for the Ammon residences and commercial space. One Beverly Hills represents $5 billion betting that ultra-premium real estate can integrate sustainability, that vertical density can coexist with botanical landscapes, and that Beverly Hills can finally build towers worthy of its global reputation for luxury, without abandoning environmental responsibility. So here's what California is really proving in 2026. While other states debate whether infrastructure matters, California is executing projects at a scale that matches its economy. Over $150 billion in active construction reshaping how 40 million people access water, travel between cities, and experience urban life. These aren't modest upgrades or incremental improvements. These are declarations that California still believes in building things that matter, that the state that created the modern American West through massive infrastructure can do it again. But the question remains, can California actually finish what it starts? Can high-speed rail open before 2040? Can the Delta conveyance survive 2 decades of environmental lawsuits? Can Site's reservoir come online before the next mega drought? Can Lax's people mover handle 80 million annual passengers without immediate overcrowding? Can one Beverly Hills deliver sustainable luxury without becoming another overpriced monument to excess? The next 5 years will answer whether California infrastructure ambition can overcome California infrastructure dysfunction, whether the state can build at the scale of serious nations, or whether these projects become cautionary tales about what happens when ambition exceeds execution. Which project do you think will succeed? Which one will become a billion-dollar failure? Drop your predictions in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the world's most ambitious mega projects, subscribe so we don't miss the moment when California either proves everyone wrong or confirms every skeptic's worst predictions about American infrastructure.